Keith Kenny, realtor, Century 21, Optimum Realty. Keith, enjoying the chat so far? Are you having a good time so far?
I'm having a great time.
We didn't scare you off. You stuck around for the second segment, so we did something right.
No, absolutely. I'm tied to my chair. So.
You know what? We haven't had anybody run out of the studio.
No, it's close. It's been close.
You might have had a couple people over on Yonge Street off before. I don't know. I can't comment. I don't know what goes on over there when I'm not there. But
we generally like to
we have a lot of fun.
Create a nice atmosphere for our guests. Yes. Hopefully, you're having a good time. We appreciate you coming in.
Having a great time.
Yeah, we'd love to have this market knowledge.
Yeah.
We've had realtors on before, and
they sucked.
No, that is not true. We've had some really great realtors on.
All our guests have been good. I'm just trying to have a little fun.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And there's just so much going on right now, I find. And real estate is such a hot topic.
Yep.
Mortgage lending is such a hot topic. And I'm glad that we are here with you to be a part of the conversation.
So, Keith, when it comes to parts of the community, parts of HRM that are really, obviously the peninsula is the peninsula, right? That's a different kettle of fish. Absolutely. But are there any places like, I don't know, on the outskirts, Spryfield, wherever, that are still really a good buy where you can get good buys?
No, I think so. I think Dartmouth downtown is still a great investment opportunity.
Is that right?
The location is
I love
amazing.
Dartmouth.
Absolutely.
I've lived there myself.
That's beautiful.
And I have an office there, so obviously I believe.
Yeah. There you go. Fairview, of course, is still an incredible value.
Fairview's up and coming.
You know, and if you look back 20 years ago, nobody really wanted to live in the North End Halifax, and now it's bumping. Fairview, location-wise, close to the bridges, 102.
Yeah. What about North Street? Because I go down North Street, and you get that vibe that it's still got some grit to it, but you just also get the vibe that that's going to be a gentrified area.
You know what? Well, with the center plan, with the corridor zoning and a lot of different zoning changes, you're going to see some larger buildings going along Agricola North, Roby Street, Windsor Street. Those
they've
main
already
thoroughfares.
started, really.
They really have.
Yeah.
Like the skyline looks so different than it did even like 5 years ago.
Yeah,
absolutely. And they're concentrating on those main thoroughfares to really increase the density, to add some more vibrance to the city. And of course, unfortunately, it does lose some of the character. But, I guess in order to improve the infrastructure of Halifax, it's a bit necessary.
What about transit and the reliance on transit? This is something that is very important.
The challenge with Halifax is it was not built to be a large city. It was built a long time ago, so we're dealing...
just even think about the population growth we've had the last couple of years.
Yeah.
It's really difficult, but, let's just think about the internal infrastructure of Halifax. The more density we can improve on the peninsula itself and the less urban sprawl, the less, we're going to have the service, whether it's snow plowing or municipal water and sewers or this kind of thing. So it's good business, but it is tough for people that live in Halifax to see some of the, older structures get removed.
Yeah, the sprawl is tough. The one thing that's really going for us here is we have a lot of land. But we need to manage that, I think, with the density and the urban sprawl. Like, it's very, very costly for the municipality to have it. I mean, just think. It wasn't that long ago when we had floods and fires here in Halifax that were really devastating for the population. And some of that was really impacted by this urban sprawl and really lack of infrastructure and services.
Keith, the question that I'll ask you is in the Hammonds Plains area, to Clinton's point, they had the fire and there's egress and having ways to get out in case of emergency. Is this a concern that you hear from some buyers?
It absolutely is. People want to know if there's a catastrophe, there's two ways to get out. Yeah. And a lot of these subdivisions have not planned that in the future.
Right.
And a lot of times it's interlocked by wetlands or, protected land that you can't put an infrastructure over. And I know in Hubley, where I live right now, we only have one way in and out, and it's either owned privately, and you would have to spend an arm and a leg to buy it as a community that's, really personally financed, or you would have to, try to get some crown land or kind of impose on a wetland. So it's really tough.
Yeah, road infrastructure is a challenge. It's a massive challenge in the city, let's face it.
It really is. But, when you're garnered by the water as a... we're not a planned city where it's like a grid, like a Calgary or something like that. We were built a long time ago, and now we're trying to sort out modern infrastructure with the old road systems.
Totally. And, I think that's something very hard to balance out. And I'm sure when you're talking to consumers, sometimes they're coming in and they have a pre-approval, from their unbiased mortgage professional, whoever that may be. And
Clinton Wilkins.
Maybe us, maybe somebody else. But at least if they're getting good advice, it's all good. Yeah. They're coming in with their pre-approval, and they don't know where they want to be. Yeah. But I'm sure these are things that, really, if someone's getting a good advice from a realtor, these are questions they should be asked.
Oh, certainly. And a lot of times you will be governed by the price point that you can afford.
Of course.
If you're looking up to 450, we're not looking on the peninsula, unfortunately. But yeah, often it also has to do with where you work and where you play and where you live and where, your family is. And often I'll tell people, hey, look, if you want to live in X community and you work somewhere else, get up at whatever time you're planning to go to work, drive that drive and see if you're okay.
Yeah.
And now there has been some
that might be a game changer.
It
I'm
really
thinking,
is.
for some people.
And well, now with the infrastructure they've done through Sackville, the Bedford bypass, there's
Even through Burnside,
things are
that's
getting a
making it
lot better.
Yeah.
But Magazine Hill was something that I would tell people. Bayers Road. There's a couple places where I want people to experience the bottleneck before they commit several $100,000 to find out that this is a terrible situation.
Yeah, I mean, like my office is in downtown Dartmouth. We also have an office in downtown Halifax. I couldn't live kind of outside Peninsula / downtown Dartmouth. Like the commute would just be not doable for me.
Right.
Especially, how I love working all the time.
Yeah.
And that's something that would definitely factor into my decision. For me, I think, when we're looking at areas, there's places like Armdale have such value because you're so close to downtown, but the prices are not Peninsula prices. I feel like you can get so much more for your money.
Oh, you're absolutely right. But it's always about the quality of life. What does the person value? And if we look in, Toronto, GTA area, people are driving for 2 hours and half of that is traffic. So even getting stuck in traffic in Halifax and taking 35 minutes
It's nothing.
is nothing.
But
We are just not prepared. Like we're not used to a commute per se.
No, that's right. I think though that people need to be proactive and look at what's in the offing for building going down the road, because if you talk about Halifax Shopping Center and the road Armdale area and that there's some nice residential areas in there. But if you're worried about traffic, man, and you're Joe Howe Drive and you go down there and you look at the buildings that are going up, the congestion is going to get crazy there, right? And people need to know that, I think. What are your thoughts?
Oh, absolutely. I 100% agree. And that's why, talking to people to make sure that if they are living outside of town and they have to commute to town every day, that they're educated and they can make informed decisions. Because like you said, we're increasing the population, the infrastructure's moving up higher. It's not going to get any better. We're not going to be able to put wide highways. We're not going to have a fancy subway or something that we can put into the Halifax Peninsula.
How about Lower Sackville? What's that area like?
Lower Sackville is still an incredible value.
Yeah.
But again, people were dealing with the Magazine Hill if they were going through Dartmouth, or dealing with the 102. So things are getting better. The city is trying to move traffic a little bit more efficiently, but ultimately there's always going to be a bottleneck when you're, retained by bridges or water, or,
and I think that's where you need to balance out the commute and the price of the real estate. I think sometimes people just look at the price point and they're not taking these other factors really into consideration. Talking about commute, I cross the bridge, almost every day, going to the office.
Toll free now.
I have noticed a big difference though.
Yeah.
My big concern with the tolls out, I thought the bridge would just see a lot more traffic because people are like, I don't have to pay. I can just cross the bridge as many times as I want.
Yeah.
But it's definitely flowing better. I'm surprised.
Yeah.
Pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
Let's just say that. This is someone who, in my entire life, there's been a toll at the bridge. And I think it's certainly going to be a bit of a game changer. It'll be interesting to see, once the tolls are out for, a bigger period of time, if that's going to impact how the traffic's going to
Keith, what tell us about the age cohorts that are your clients? Or is it all over the map, like your demographics, or tell us about that?
Absolutely. It's all over the map. I think one of the groups that I deal with a lot are individuals that are looking for, they're in their 60s, they're looking for something smaller, one level living. And unfortunately, to their dismay, the Halifax Regional Municipality does not have a reasonably priced community of one level on a slab homes, even if it was $650 or below. And these folks, their options are to go to a condo, which they don't want to do, move to an apartment, which they don't want to do. So a lot of them stay in their houses because it's better than the alternative.
I think Truro, and there are some communities that are doing those types of developments, are there not?
There is Windsor, Truro. I mean, there's options out there, but in HRM itself, it's very difficult to find. And if you're finding at one level, it's 800 plus.
Right. And I think, and the demand for that type of home is just so high. And I think that's where our block is right now. It's the people that want to downsize are not selling. And I think that's, that's part of our inventory issue. It's not just we don't have enough builders building. We don't have enough, sellers selling.
Well, and this was the reality, and that's why I'm excited about possibly the market becoming more balanced. Because if you're looking to upsize or downsize your house, and I say, hey, Clinton, I could sell your house in 3 days, let's go, and you'll say, well, where am I going to move? I'd be like, I don't know.
That's the big,
I can't guarantee.
That's always the question.
And if I can find the place, I don't, during COVID, I didn't know what the price was going to be. So that's why people hesitated, because they don't want to have the risk of being homeless. Thus, they just waited.
Right. Oftentimes we hear reports from various companies. I won't mention any because I don't want to promote any other company other than Century 21. But they give out these national reports, and they kind of have an overlook at each. Are they useful sometimes, or are they sometimes inaccurate, or
like is it Korea data? Like where is the information coming
like
from?
do you find that that's good information? Because people read that, and people like me on news radio report that type of stuff, and that impacts the market, I would think.
And we've quoted it here on our show.
Sure.
Oh, absolutely. Well, national, prosperity impacts everybody. Their feeling of confidence. If I know the Toronto market is struggling with condo sales. I know Saskatchewan is very strong. Across the board, there's not a whole lot of consistency, because if you're in Southern Ontario, you're probably worried about tariffs more than Nova Scotia, which our main industry is likely government. I mean, we have lots of different businesses, but Nova Scotians don't feel as stressed about it. Of course, they're concerned, but it doesn't seem like it's going to drastically diminish we don't have one major industry that covers 80% of our
And I don't think we've
population.
ever really had this big boom, and we haven't had the bust. Like, we have a more stable environment here, I think, overall.
Yeah.
But, I think we're starting to see some of trickle effects. Like last month we talked on our show about, I think, a seafood processing plant that closed in a rural community here in Nova Scotia.
That's right.
And these things do have an impact. But I think by and large, we do have a more stable economy here.
Yeah, and this would be the same thing with in Ottawa, which, again, main industry is mostly government.
Yeah.
But then if you move to Alberta, when it's oil town, they're going to have
It's
a
the
lot
best
more
of days
impact.
and worst of days.
That's right. Everybody's a millionaire and everybody's poor, and then just wait 3 years and we're millionaires
How
again.
about military moves? Do you do a lot of military clients? I would assume you do.
I do, yeah. I'm a former military myself. I deal with a lot of military. The Canadian Forces has reduced a lot of the relocation in the last few years.
Which I think is a good thing.
Exactly, because there was a lot of strain on military families to be moving every
It was
4
a
years.
lot.
And
Lot-
it was
lot of
costly.
costs.
Costly.
Yeah.
Exactly, paid by the government taxpayers.
Yeah.
And why do I want to move people every 4 years? Because, of course, it's going to impact your job, your quality of life. You show up at a new job with a whole new group of people. It's going to take you a while to acclimatize. So why not keep them longer in those positions?
I have a lot of military clients that have had 3+ postings.
Oh, yes.
And we've moved them across the country and, moved them back. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. So overall, things are good in your world.
Things are good. The market is strong. It's balanced. There's a good, healthy amount of inventory. We're seeing interest rates come down so people can afford more. The government seems to be paying attention more to what Canadians need, and that's what we need to have more people being able to afford their first-time houses and, get into the market, because right now that's the toughest factor for people.
All right. So if people want to get a hold of Keith Kenny, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Best way is to drop me an email, is keith.kenny@century21.ca, or you can call me on my cell phone, 902-817-8178.
And like all realtors, 24/7.
24/7.
365?
Yes.
Don't be calling me on the weekend, but that's all right. We'll still take your email or your form fill. We'll always get back to you.
That's right.
I
That's
love
right.
it.
Well, Keith, it's been a real treat having you in. You're a great guest, and I'd like to have you on a radio show as well.
Thank you so much. A pleasure being here.
Thanks for
Okay.
coming. I really appreciate it.
If you've liked what you've heard and you want to learn more, feel free to visit us online at teamclinton.ca.